Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Paycheck, starring Ben Affleck, Aaron Eckhart, Uma Thurman, Paul Giamatti, Colin Feore, Joel Morton, and Michael C. Hall, directed by John Woo. Now, I have seen this in theaters, but I didn't know it was a Philip K. Dick movie until, I don't know, before Adjustment Bureau came out. But let's get into this movie and we'll see how it's very futuristic with Philip K. Dick's signature on there. Since I never read the short story, anyways. Probably won't plan to for this one, for damn sure. In a three dimensional world, we meet Mike Jennings, played by Ben Affleck. And do we know what his job is in this world is? Because I sure as hell don't. As he has no arc except for trying to remember what his memory tells him, and that's it. And he's a Boston Red Sox fan. And that is true for Ben Affleck. I mean, he is from Boston, after all. And unfortunately, it doesn't tell me much as the movie goes rather at a confusing route where played by Paul Giamatti, erases part of his memory. And what the hell is Paul Giamatti doing in this movie, even though it was before Sideways? Is beyond me. And as unfortunately, I only knew him as a humiliating comedic actor. Mike goes to a party ran by Jimmy. Let me see if I say this name right. Rethrick? Yeah, that sounds right. Played by Aaron Eckhart. As he meets biologist Dr. Rachel Porter, who works for Jimmy, and they have rather an awkward conversation. And Rachel is played by Uma Thurman, and he doesn't believe in second chances, as Jimmy wants to wipe Michael's memories to save the world. And despite I like these actors in better movies, but here, I don't like watching them here as Ben Affleck, who was at a point in his career, he's made a lot of bad movies. Michael, or Mike, let's call him. Well, let's just call him Michael. I don't give a crap. Michael meets John Wolfe, played by Colin Feore, as I've seen him in lots of movies, which I reviewed him before in The Amazing Spider Man 2 and Thor, both Marvel films. As he brings Michael to Jimmy, and the world doesn't seem too futuristic in a Philip K. Dick kind of way. But we focus on the inside a lot in this first 20 minutes into the movie, while he's falling for Rachel rather too quickly, in my opinion. Jimmy wipes out Michael's memories for 3 years, and earns $92 million, which killed me with laughter right off the bat, as this as he gets his things back and they don't belong to him, and did things he can't even remember doing, which is very confusing and stupid. As this movie is both very confusing and stupid, as this annoyed the hell out of me. Michael gets arrested by the FBI agents Klein, played by Michael C. Hall, and Dodge, played by Joe Morton, as he was Cyborg's father in the Justice League. And I'm talking about the recent movie. I'm sorry to bring that up. And most well known as Miles Dyson in Terminator 2, as they interrogate Michael and Michael's tied up by the FBI agents, as this movie is pointless and boring. While they tie up Michael, Agent Dodge smokes a cigarette without turning off the smoke detector, and it triggers the alarm, and Michael escapes while Michael was set up by Jimmy, as he goes on a bus station and finds a day pass so he can go get on a bus. While on the bus, he gets mugged by a thief as he had a wedding ring, and goes inside the building where he collected his things, as he realizes Jimmy set him up, as Aaron Eckhart plays Menace perfectly, like in The Dark Knight, but here he comes off rather silly, as I can't stand him in this movie. Michael tests the things he gets from the envelope, like hairspray, a magnifying glass, and a crossword puzzle, along with a bullet, as director John Woo doesn't get this material, as he directed this movie rather poorly, like he did in Mission Impossible 2. Michael calls Shorty and meets him in the mall, where he tries to remember something, as he has an Edison key to unlock a way out of the mall, and he says the lotto and he sees the lotto number and realizes he won the lotto, which is rather an odd scene, and the way he discovers it is rather random. While Jimmy doesn't need Michael as part of the plan, but Wolf doesn't seem to care, as he guns As guns fire in the mall, Shorty escapes with help from Michael while Michael fights off some of Wolf's men and escapes from them. As this scene as an action sequence has no brain in its head, as it was bugging me like Michael getting out of death from a train because of a red light, as that was a bad coincidence as it was too convenient. We see Michael and Rachel were dating for the last 3 years as Jimmy tells Rachel Michael left the place she worked at as they have pet parrots and she tries to escape, but under Jimmy's orders, she can't as she makes a run for it, and Wolf realizes she's going to meet him at a cafe. Excuse me. As Jimmy sends a look-alike to Michael at the cafe with a camera when he doesn't recognize the woman as Rachel until Michael sees the contact in her eye is moving and asks her what's his favorite baseball team, and she doesn't answer the question, and the real Rachel comes in and knocks her out, and she answers the Red Sox and takes back what belongs to him, as I didn't care at this point, as we move on to a terrible action chase sequence on a motorcycle versus car that I cared so little about that I'm starting to have a headache and I want out of this movie. But this isn't as worse as Screamers, whereas I didn't survive my second viewing of that film, as I was able to go through this with no problem, but I started to check out of this movie and I have 45 minutes of this terrible movie left, as the acting is in this is horrendously awful. Rachel throws her helmet at the cop chasing after them, which is a terrible way to not wear a helmet, as it's bad advice to tell people that, even for a movie. Ben Affleck and Uma Thurman's chemistry was terrible at this, as this movie was badly made, as John Woo is a terrible action director for this movie, as it's unbearable. Michael gets visions of how he died again and again, and this movie is getting annoying, as we don't need these shots going again and again. As this is this Philip K. Dick for dummies? And that was my problem with The Aviator. And same with here is it makes the film more damn confusing. We learn Jimmy's future is war, and for what reason, I don't know, and I don't care. As Michaels goes back to Jimmy's building to sneak around, and as I'm confused by this plot, and it makes no damn sense. Michael goes in the machine before he and Rachel destroy it, while Rachel wants to break things with a wrench as she's dangerous with it, which is a funny line by Ben Affleck as it felt bizarre. The authorities can't get in while Michael and Rachel work on destroying the machine, and they eventually barge in their own way, and they sneak around and fight the guards, and Jimmy tries to see what Michael is up to as he turns on the machine while Michael fights the guards with a stick like he practiced with Shorty at the beginning of the movie, as he pays off fine but not great, as the movie got on my last nerves. Michael lets Rachel go while he traps himself in the laboratory to fight with Jimmy, as they point guns at each other and start fist fighting, as they made this movie a little worse when Jimmy knocks out Michael and hangs him to death, but does fall to the ground, and the FBI almost kills Michael until the guards get Rachel and brings her back to Michael, as the bullet doesn't hit Michael, but Jimmy and the machine blows up, and Michael and Rachel make it out alive, and the FBI don't go after Michael after Dodge lies his ass off, and the movie ends with Michael working at the plant nursery with Rachel and brings 2 parrots to the nursery as Michael realizes he won the lottery like he did earlier in the film for $90 million, and the climax was just blah. Blah, 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 blah. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 1.9 out of 10. I do like the actors, but they're absolutely terrible in this movie, as I don't like their characters in this movie. The movie is badly made, confusing, and stupid, as I just wanted it out after an hour and 15 minutes into the film, as it was really bizarre. John Woo did the action scenes rather poorly, as this is a little worse than Mission Impossible 2, as they're both very bad movies. As this is not worse than Screamers in my opinion. I couldn't even sit through the second viewing of that movie. But here I got through it, but I wasn't proud of it. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with the Scanner Darkly. And until then, get your ass to Mars.